Hello everybody, so nice to have you back here today. It's a cold day again in this part of the country. I'm kind of tired of winter. I like winter. I'm not, one of those ones that hate winter. I do like winter, but I've had enough. So we're going to try to go feel like spring today, even though I can see outside snow. Yesterday we had an ice storm, so it's not quite spring, but we're going to think spring today. So I want to thank everybody that's watching. If you're new, welcome. If you have been watching, thank you so much. Really appreciate it so much. And your comments I've been reading, and I get good advice from you. I'm looking forward to more because I think we can, share and help each other in so many things. So stories, treasures, and tea, that's what we are here. And I think I'm going to start this morning with treasures. But just so you know, at the end of this segment, we will have a special guest, maybe two, but one for sure. So stick around for that to see our special guest today. So this week I didn't go to any thrift shops to find treasures, but I went into a local discount store and I did some research on it after I went in there, because when I went into this store, it just screamed spring. And they had clothing, they had home decor. And they have foods in there as well. So this store is Canadian. It's Giant Tiger, which I'm sure most Canadians know, but I've kind of just recently discovered it because we have a new one in our town. And I found out that Giant Tiger started in 1961. I had no idea about that. I do like that it's Canadian, even though the American stores, we have plenty here and appreciate them, like Marshall's and Walmart. We have all those American stores as well. Not all of them. There are some in the US that we don't have here. But this Giant Tiger discount store is very Canadian, and they do try to stay with items that are local. Not everything is, of course, but I know they have like Canadian pork, and they have Canadian jujubes. I realize that the jujubes are Canadian. think the clothing, it's kind of offshore clothing and things like that, but they do try their best to be local and Canadian. So that's appreciated, even though we love the American stores as well. We had Target. I think most of us loved Target. I don't know any of my friends that didn't like it, but for some reason it didn't last in Canada, so that's too bad. But so I did find some, looking around Giant Tiger this week and quite enjoying myself and taking my time in there to really appreciate it. So another treasure that I'd like to talk about was something my daughter found. I think she found it on Facebook Marketplace. And we were looking for something to put our TV on, because recently we finished a big room downstairs in the basement. We finished it. It's a nice living space. And we had a TV, and we were looking for something to put that on, a cabinet. So Heather found this cabinet that was, I think it was from the 70s, and it was a really good price. So she brought it home, and we took a look at it, and we thought we could make it a lot prettier. So that's what we did. So the paint that we used on that cabinet was the best. I'm not really a painter. I don't strip wood and take it down to its, original finish. I'm not very skilled at that at all. But we use this paint that it does a coverage that is great. And it's water-based, which I love, because then you can wash the brushes so readily. So this paint, it's called Fusion Mineral. You can see this jar is well used, but Fusion Mineral paint, we loved it. Just discovered it for this project, and I used it on another project too, which I'll show you when it's finished. But I would recommend that for beginners and not beginners as well. It was great. So that was some of our treasures, our projects, and I want to talk next about stories. As you know, I was married for a long time, and it ended abruptly, and I was brokenhearted. And that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today, mending a broken heart. And it can be end of a relationship. It can be when a loved one passes away. There's so many things that can make us brokenhearted. So I'm going to read this thing. I went to a support group, which I loved, which I didn't think I was a support group person. And I also had other support. My family, I remember when it first happened and it was shocking the way it happened. I phoned my sisters. My sisters were there. I had 3 sisters at the time. One has since passed away. My sisters were there as quickly as they could. They stayed with me for that night. My brother, I remember talking to him, and he was so supportive. I didn't even know he had that much compassion. He talked to me every day. Every day he talked me through the roughest time during that period, which was so much appreciated. So support is, it's essential. But I went to that support group and made a lot of friends, but I also went later to a retreat, and it was like a weekend retreat for people who were separated or divorced. And there was a priest that was conducting the retreat. He was like, trained in that kind of thing. And he actually wrote a booklet. So I'm just going to read something that he wrote in the booklet about mending a broken heart. And he said, try to restore or keep your balance by remembering a few basic truths. Take consolation in the fact that sooner or later everyone comes to experience a broken heart. It is very common phenomena in living. So you are not alone in the pain you are experiencing. And that was a comfort, because sometimes when you are devastated and brokenhearted, you feel like you're so alone, and you feel like, I felt like a failure. I know one of my subscribers said she felt shunned to a certain degree. And I understand that, and I felt like a failure. And like my doctor said, you are not a failure, because I talked to my doctor for support too, just family doctor. He said, your marriage is probably failed, but you are not a failure. So I think it's important to know that we're not alone. I felt that way during COVID times too, when so many of us were isolated, almost everybody at some point. And because I had felt lonely at other times, this time I felt as if everybody's in the same boat, alone in their home, not being able to socialize or even be with family a lot. So in some strange way, it was a bit of a comfort to know that I'm not alone in this. So this priest also said this. These are some don'ts when you're feeling very brokenhearted. Because a couple of weeks ago we talked about some do's, and it was like journaling and doing something different and being kind to yourself. But these are some don'ts that he is suggesting. He said, don't feel that you have got to figure out everything that happened in the end of the relationship. And I did that. I thought, maybe if I had done this, or maybe it was because of this, or because of that. That can drive you crazy. So there comes a point where you just have to decide, whatever happened, happened. I don't need to figure out every detail of why it happened. So that was one of his suggestions for don't. Another don't was, don't blame yourself or criticize yourself, but instead forgive yourself and move on. And that is easier said than done at that most crucial time, I know, but that is the best medicine, really. Forgive yourself. And forgiveness is freeing. It's freeing because, for example, if you're not forgiving the one that hurt you, you are using all your energy. The other person is not hurt by your unforgiveness. It's you. So forgiveness it's huge, and it's difficult, especially in the beginning. He also said, don't give in to the strong temptation to get into another relationship too soon. And I told you last week that I started to think that I should date, and I tried to go on one date, and it did not go well as far as my emotional state. So that is sound advice, I think. And the last thing he said was, don't hunt down your ex's friends and acquaintances and try to get information from them about your ex. I did that as well. I remember phoning his friends and trying to convince them to tell him what is he doing, to talk some sense into him. So it's not a good idea. It's exhausting as well. So I hope that these suggestions can help you in some way. And the best thing for us to do is to do our very best to move on. So, as I told you, I'm going to have a special guest here today, and my daughter is the special guest, and she is a tea sommelier. So we are going to talk about tea. Hello, Heather.
Hi.
Welcome to Stories, Treasures, and Tea.
Thanks.
So this is my daughter, Heather, and she is a full-fledged tea sommelier, which is like a wine sommelier, but tea. I took Tea 101, but Heather continued on and completed the course, and so she is a tea expert. So I'm going to ask her a couple of questions today, and maybe you could chime in with some other things, Heather.
Sure.
But the first thing, a little bit of history of tea. So Heather, can you tell us, how did it come about that people started drinking tea?
Well, the history goes that Emperor Shennong was sitting under a tree, relaxing. He was drinking his hot water, and a leaf from the tree above him fell into his cup, and he drank it, and he found that it was tasty. So that was actually the tea plant. So from there, it just expanded, and they started processing it and growing it and cultivating it, and now we have tea.
I'm very glad that that happened to him.
Yeah.
Okay, Heather, so today we have cups of tea, and we decided to choose cups that looked spring-like because we're trying to go spring-like. What is this tea we're drinking?
So right now we have a Darjeeling black tea.
Very nice. What can you tell us about Darjeeling?
So Darjeeling is also known as the champagne of teas.
Oh, yes.
And it does actually have like a champagne sort of muscatel flavor to it, like a wine sort of flavor. But yeah, Darjeeling is known as one of the finest black teas that you can get. You can get different kinds. You can get first flush, second flush. But right now we're drinking one called Margaret's Hope Darjeeling, which is from the Margaret's Hope Tea Estate. That's what it's called.
Oh,
so you can know this tea is from one specific tea farm. Estate.
So Darjeeling is from India, Darjeeling, India.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
Very nice.
Darjeeling region, yeah.
And it's a black tea, but
You can get Darjeelings that are more on the green side or more on the black side, but this is a black Darjeeling.
Okay, now you talked about the first flush or the second flush. What does that mean?
First flush and second flush, that's the season that they pick it.
Okay, I see.
So first flush would be the spring buds, and then second flush would be the second pick, because they have two picks of the tea plant. Okay.
So the other question is, can you tell us a little bit about the different teas?
Yeah. So some people know, but all different tea types are from the same plant. So I'm talking about actual teas, not tisanes, which are herbal teas, the caffeine free. But all teas are from the same tea plant. So we have black tea, green tea, oolong tea, white tea, pu'er, and there's also yellow tea, but that's hard to find where we are. But they're all the same tea plant, just processed differently. So black teas are more processed, green teas are more like the natural leaf, white teas are the youngest buds.
So they're all from the same tree,
yes,
which is called
Camellia sinensis.
Camellia sinensis, but not herbal tea, because herbals are tisane.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So for instance, like a chamomile or a peppermint, or those are all different herbal tea plants.
Yes.
Even rooibos. Rooibos is its own thing.
Okay. And can you also tell us, because somebody has asked us this before, the difference between afternoon tea and high tea, and then the British cream tea?
Okay. So this is one that a lot of people get mixed up, and it is confusing because people use the words for different things. But afternoon tea is the traditional afternoon tea that we think of. So the 3-tiered tray, it's got the savories, it's got the scones and the cream and the jam, and it's got the sweets. So that's the afternoon tea.
Okay, which I love.
The high tea is a little bit different. It's more of a hearty meal that's served later in the evening. So it's almost like a dinner. It's like got roast beef and hearty meals, chicken, that sort of thing. Yeah.
I'm hungry.
And then the cream tea. The cream tea is the scones.
Yes.
So the scones, the clotted cream, and the jam.
Okay, Heather, I have one more question about tea. So can you tell us the difference between, like, if we buy tea in tea bags from the grocery store, and the difference between that and loose leaf teas?
Yeah. So the loose leaf teas, they're a higher quality tea. So the tea bags we get, it's mostly like clippings and the end sort of product. But the loose leaf, that's the actual leaf that you're getting. So when you're drinking it, you'll get more nuances and flavor rather than just one straight flat flavor. So you get more nuanced. You can taste different flavors in there as you're drinking, and yeah, it's a better quality.
Better quality and better tasting, really.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Heather, for being my guest today.
Thank you for inviting me.
So next week, I hope you join us again. We were thinking we might have Lilibet today, but she's sound asleep. And you know that expression of let sleeping dogs lie? We like to do that. So we're going to leave her. Hopefully she'll be here next week a little more lively. But please consider subscribing, which simply means that you're making us one of your favorite. And we look forward to seeing you here next week. And if you have any comments, I really appreciate hearing from you. Thank you, and see you next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.